Hey guys, welcome back to another Cyberpunk 2077 video. First off, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who watched my last few videos, everyone who liked, commented, and subscribed to the channel. The feedback I received has been beyond amazing, and I appreciate every single one of you. Now, in today's video, we'll be looking at 8 things you can do differently in your second playthrough of the game to get a completely different experience than in your first one. I mean, it's been almost a month since the game was released, and many of you are already done with your first playthrough. You guys made many different choices that shaped your Cyberpunk 2077 experience for the better or for the worse. So if you're considering starting over and experiencing the Night City in a new, different light, here are the most important things you can do differently in your second playthrough. Also, there might be some story elements we discussed in this video, so just to be on the safe side, I think spoiler alert is probably warranted. If you are new to the channel and you end up liking the video, show your support by subscribing. Every sub helps the channel grow big times. Also, be sure to check out my social media. All the links are as usual in the description below. So one of the first decisions you make when you start a new game is selecting between male or female V character and also masculine or feminine voice. This decision might seem fairly shallow and purely visual or acoustic, but it's actually deeper than that. Picking one gender over the other has a real impact on how the cyberpunk world and its inhabitants interact with you. Based on your gender, you will notice the difference in the vocabulary and the tone the main story characters use when talking to you, and you will also occasionally get different dialogue options as a result. Random NPCs in the world might holler at you if you chose a female V, but ignore you if you chose a male character, and vice versa. Another thing to keep in mind is the countless clothing options in the game. Some of them look better on a female character and some of them look better on a male character. If you watched my latest stream, you know that I'm a sucker for how my character looks in an RPG game. I will definitely sacrifice some armor stats just to make my character look bomb. So if you fall into the same category of players, be sure to keep that in mind when picking a gender. One of the biggest impacts of these two choices, however, is which main character you'll be able to romance, and that itself could significantly shape your Cyberpunk 2077 experience, but we will get a little bit more into that later in the video. Now let's move on to the second biggest decision you make when you're starting a new game, and that's choosing your life path. And whilst choosing a life path does not directly impact things like your character's perks, attributes, leveling, romance options, or the game endings, it does impact your starting location, the starting clothes, the prologue length, dialogue options, and the characters you meet throughout the game. Beginning of the game usually forms a long-lasting impression on a player, which in most cases carries through the rest of their playthrough. You can see the biggest impact of picking a different path in the beginning of the game, so if you want a little change of pace or scenery, meet new characters you haven't seen before, and discover different places the story can take you, consider choosing a different life path in your second playthrough. Third thing on the list is mixing up your dialogue choices. Vast majority of dialogue in Cyberpunk 2077 has absolutely no impact on the story whatsoever. And that's 98% of the dialogue, by the way. In most cases, what you get is a change in the next line of dialogue, and that's pretty much it. Also, you do have to consider the fact that there is an insane amount of dialogue in this game. So probably around 1/3 of the dialogue you won't even get to see during your first playthrough. But the remaining 2 to 6% you do get to see, however, can have a huge impact on how your story unfolds. I believe it's safe to say that most people remember the biggest decisions they made in their first playthrough and how their story evolved as a result. So this time around, try to make different choices and see where the new story branch takes you. For example, the ending of Act 1 when you're finishing up the heist mission, you get a choice what to do with Jackie's body. The first option, to do nothing and leave it in the car, is a fake option, so don't bother with that one. But the other 2 options trigger different story events down the road, so pick the other option in your second playthrough and see what happens. Also, I should probably mention that there are 5 possible endings to the game, well 6 if you also include the secret ending, so if you're not happy with how your first playthrough ended, you get a chance to change that through making different decisions this time around. Change number 4, guys, try a different character build. There's so many ways you can build your character in this game. focusing on intelligence and cyber hacking, or powerful melee builds with katanas and gorilla arms. Or perhaps you really enjoyed crafting in this game, so you went for legendary crafting and the rest of the perks in the technical ability attribute. Well, if you didn't want to drop 100k eddies on respecking during your first playthrough, now is your chance to mix it up a bit. If you went with the Netrunner build last time, try crafting some legendary weapons this time around and go full on John Wick mode. Or try a melee build with katana samurai style. You get my point, guys. Try a new build and see if you end up enjoying the game more. Now, fifth thing you can do differently is really an extension of point number 4, because they both significantly influence your gameplay experience and they should both complement each other, so I'll run through this one quickly. I'm challenging you to try different cyberware. For example, if you used reinforced tendons to double jump in your first playthrough, try to go with fortified ankles for the charge jump in your second. Or pick a different operating system this time around. Go with Sandevistan or Berserker for a change. I guarantee that your experience of the game will drastically change if you experiment in this category a little bit. The next way to spice up your second playthrough is choosing a different love interest. This choice is unfortunately fairly limited, since there are only 4 main character romance options in the game: Judy Alvarez, Panam Palmer, River Ward, and Carrie Eurodyne. Furthermore, these characters have their own gender and voice preferences, so going back to the first item on the list, depending on which gender and voice option you pick at the start of the game, your romance options decrease even more. Judy is only interested in female Vs with the feminine voice. River is also interested in female Vs, but he has no voice preferences. Both Panam and Carrie are interested in male V characters. However, Carrie is more particular in his preference, as he requires you to have a masculine voice to be able to hit it off. So think hard when you're creating your V at the beginning of the game, which character would you like to romance down the road, and if that could be the deciding factor. Personally, I picked a female V with a feminine voice, primarily to be able to romance Judy, so come at me, bro. Now let's talk about achievements as point number 7. Some achievements, especially the game ending ones, are mutually exclusive, so there is really no possible way to complete all achievements during one playthrough. But besides the game ending ones, if you did manage to complete all achievements during your first playthrough, hey, good fucking job, you're a fucking legend. For the rest of the players, however, achievements played more of a secondary role during their first playthrough. So if you want to spice up your second run through the game, tackle some additional challenges, here are all of the achievements you can get in Cyberpunk 2077. Feel free to pause the video if you want to read through them, but also keep in mind that you can complete all achievements by playing at any difficulty, so if you're more of a casual player, feel free to knock down the difficulty to get them done if that works better for you. The last thing on the list might be a little bit controversial, but you can also wait for your second playthrough until CD Projekt Red fixes a lot of the broken things in the game and introduces some DLCs or additional content. Let's be real here, guys. Most of y'all's first playthrough was plagued by countless bugs and constant reminders of all the features that devs cut out from the game. So maybe take a little break and give them some time to address some of these issues, release some additional content, or maybe even the third person mode, and in a few months come back for your second run. Who knows, you might feel like you can finally completely immerse yourself into the Cyberpunk world, and that itself might completely change your opinion on the game. Alright guys, these are the ones that I could come up with, but let me know in the comment section below if you think that I missed some essential change that you can make in your second playthrough that would make you feel like you're having a significantly different experience. Just a quick disclaimer, by the way, these are all just suggestions and options you can explore when starting over with Cyberpunk 2077. And if you enjoyed one of these options first time around and it absolutely made the game for you, that's totally up to you to make the same choice again. But I do encourage you to give something different a shot. You never know, you might end up loving it even more. And that's gonna be it for today, guys. Have fun with your second playthrough, guys, or third or fourth. And if you found information in this video helpful, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.